In this video, we're going to learn how to properly name binary ionic compounds without transition metals. So if you remember, an ionic bond is when a metal transfers its valence electron to a nonmetal, forming ions that are attracted to one another. And that attraction is an electrostatic attraction, which is also called the ionic bond. In this video, we're going to talk about the chemical nomenclature behind these ionic compounds. And what does chemical nomenclature mean? It's just a big fancy way to say, what is the name of this NaCl, all right? And another thing we want to figure out is, where does this name even come from, where we call this ionic compound? There is this big international union of pure and applied chemistry, which is called IUPAC for short, and this is kind of like a universally recognized authority in chemical naming. So there is an IUPAC naming system that names all ionic compounds and chemicals that is commonly used around the whole world. So our name comes from your IUPAC naming system. So the next thing we're going to talk about is, what do we even call it? What are the naming rules? Let's start by talking about what a binary ionic substance is. So we know an ionic substance is a metal and a nonmetal that combines in order to form a bond. But binary is just saying that we only have two elements. So one of those elements is going to be the metal, which here is sodium, and the other substance is going to be a nonmetal, which is chlorine over here. In order to form an ionic bond, you must have one metal and then one nonmetal. So let's talk about the rules now of how to name this ionic compound. The first rule is you want to name the cation, and if you remember, the cation is the positive ion, and you want to write the name of that element. Our cation here is sodium, so we're just going to write sodium. The second rule is, now you want to name the anion by using the name of the element, and if you remember, an anion is the negative ion, but we want to make sure to change the ending to "ide." So we know Cl is chlorine. Using rule number 2, we want to take away the ending and we want to add the ending "ide." So the full name of this ionic compound is going to be sodium chloride. What about this example? We still want to use the same rules. The first rule is name the cation by the name of the element, and we know that Mg is just magnesium, and if you didn't know that, you can just look on the periodic table. The second rule is we want to name the anion by the name of the element, and Br is just bromine. But remember, we want to take away the ending and replace it with "ide." So the full name is going to be magnesium bromide. Let's see if you can try these next two examples on your own. Pause the video and try this example and the next example. So hopefully you tried this example and you used the two rules to name this ionic compound. The first cation is just lithium. The second anion we know is oxygen. We want to take away the ending and replace it with "ide." So this name for this ionic compound is going to be lithium oxide. The last example, we have aluminum as the cation and sulfur as the anion. We want to remember to take away the ending and replace it with "ide." So the full name of this ionic compound is going to be aluminum sulfide. And that concludes our video on ionic naming. Please take a look at the recap and see if you can remember the naming rules. Thank you for watching.